love Tiny Toon Adventures. The movie How I Spent My Vacation I had in VHS and I must have watched it at least 50 times. It's great, man. Cartoons in the 90s. They were the shit. It first broadcasted in America in 1990 until 1995, and it was a huge success. And of course, video games came. There were several games released from the NES all the way up to the Game Boy Advance. In the 16-bit era, we had 4 different titles from both the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo, all of them by Konami. In 1993, we got Tiny Toon Adventures Buster's Hidden Treasure for the Sega Genesis, and Tiny Toon Adventures Buster's Bust Loose for the Super Nintendo. So it's time to put them against each other.
Sega versus Nintendo.
The epic battle for the ages. Who will come up on top?
Round 1.
Story. Yeah, we all know the story in these games matters not. But it's nice to have something to kinda look forward while playing. In the Sega Genesis, Buster Bunny is cleaning the warehouse at the Acme University and comes across an old treasure map. But of course, Montana Max takes it, and with the help of Dr. Gene Splicer, he takes several of the Tiny Toons and controls them. So off you go to rescue your friends and get the treasure map back. In the Super Nintendo, the story is much more disjointed, only moving you forward between stage and stage, with really no clear arcing plot, only to reveal at the end that it was all sets for a movie or a play. Spoilers! Oh, come on, it's not like it's a huge reveal. Get out of here. So in the Sega Genesis, at the end we get the treasure, and for some reason they use the money to convert the island into an amusement park. Spoilers! You again? I told you to get out of here! So, which one gets the point? Fight! In the end, the Super Nintendo gets the point because even though the story is very disjointed, it represents the spirit of the show much better than the Sega Genesis one does. And isn't that the point of a video game based on a TV show?
Round 2.
Presentation. Both these games look and sound great comparing with the source material. The Sega Genesis has very good looking graphics and sound, and so does the Super Nintendo. We take a close look though and we really start to see differences. Buster Hidden Treasure has a lot more levels, but even though they run the gamut from the forest to the snow, it's just not very interesting visually. Then we see Buster's Bust Loose and we see it has a lot more detail and how much interesting the level presentation really is. Not only that, but it has a lot of references to different movies actually. Take a look. I thought that was really cool. The character models as well. They seem to look a little bit better in the Super Nintendo than the Sega Genesis one. Then we have the music, and again, the Genesis has really good sound, but the SNES one just has that extra bit that gives it a little bit more depth. Let's listen to a couple of tracks back to back. In the end, which one gets the point? Fight! I think it was clear that the Super Nintendo just has better presentation in graphics and sound, and wins another point.
Round 3.
Gameplay. Buster's Hidden Treasure plays more like a traditional platformer, while Buster's Bust Loose deviates from that formula. Sega Stakes brings you in an overworld very similar to Super Mario World. The objective is just to move in the stage until you find a dodo and he'll take you to the next stage. The stages themselves have a lot of verticality to them, and have lots of hidden paths. You can even find a hidden dodo and he'll take you to a branching path in the overworld. In the end though, they all lead to the same path. You can get different power-ups, but they stand up when you get a screen clearing attack. But honestly, I use them very little, and sometimes to find these items you need to get to a very difficult path, and sometimes it's just not worth it, and half of the time I even forget I got one. From the first level you'll notice that you can build momentum and run really fast, like another game. But unlike that game, it seems to forget that you can do that, and in 2/3 of the game you cannot even run, but rather just platform around. And when you can, you trip. Hey, how you doing? You doing okay, buddy? You need any help? Blue balls. This game gives you blue balls. In the other end of the spectrum, Buster's Bust Loose control scheme is really different from the traditional platformer, and at first it really fucks with you. To start, you cannot stomp on enemies, but rather you need to do this weird flip kick thing, and then you run by tapping the Alt or R button and drains this bar. Trust me, the controls are hard to get into. Even the game lets you know that. When the game asks you if you got it, it knows it's very different. But I gotta say, after 15 minutes you get it, and then you start to pull cool stunts in the game. And as you can see, the game uses a lot of running mechanics. You can stick into walls, and I think it works really well. For the Sega Genesis, the game has as well a wall jump mechanic, but it's mostly used to get into hidden areas. Going back to the Super Nintendo, the game is very short. Even with the learning curve for the controls, you can still finish the game in the normal settings in what, an hour and a half? Hidden Treasure is much longer, but as I've stated before, it starts to feel long because you are doing the same stuff in all the levels with very small variations. And there are many cheap deaths that really makes the game feel longer than it really is. Although that's true for both games. The boss battles in the Sega Genesis are not very imaginative. We end up doing the same thing, stopping at the guy's head, and that's it. For the Super Nintendo, we get much more diversity. Every level offers a different way to play, and that prevents you from getting bored. I mean, we even get an American football level, and a fun one at that. Even the bonus stages. Except you, Hampton. Fucking hate that bonus stage. In the Sega Genesis, you are only trying to get as far as possible without touching dodos. They're just not as fun. And with the Super Nintendo, we get many different activities. To me, it's very clear that Buster's Bust Loose has better gameplay. It's always a good sign that just after finishing the game in normal mode, I went right ahead and played a hard mode just to get the good ending. And I personally never do that unless I like the game a lot. So I think it's very clear that the Super Nintendo won this battle. The game just represents the show so much better in its story and presentation, and it's just fun to play, once you get accustomed to the controls, of course. That said, both games are really good. The Sega Genesis one has its charm, and if you're like me, you're a Tiny Toons Adventure fan, give them a try and get back some of that nostalgia. So, thanks for watching Gokado's Retro Reviews, and hasta la próxima.
You suck. Sega is better.
Oh, look who's here! We were just talking about you, and how you haven't subscribed yet. For shame. Well, if you like this video, I got another comparison for you here. And also, if for some weird reason you would like to hear more of me talking, we do a weekly podcast at the Console Explosion YouTube channel. Give it a click over here. There are many awesome people over there. Again, thanks for watching and hasta la próxima.